Hello there, my name is Jonathan Stevens and I'm from Created for Learning. Welcome to our discussion about reimagining the writing process, especially essays, and teaching our learners to revise their own work. I know it seems like a dream, but we're going to talk about it. So first, let me tell you a little bit about myself. During my 13-year career, I taught all the way from 6th grade up through college, subjects English and creative writing, levels ELD, regular, honors. I covered the gamut with the different levels of learners. And so I feel like I've tried writing with all of them. And so any of those questions about, will this work with this level? Will this work with this higher level? These learners, all of that. I'm no expert, but I've worked with them and it worked for me. And so I just want to share that with you today. So let's start with some rarely recognized facts. 1, we teachers know what we're doing. Believe that about us, about yourself. 2, we shouldn't need to prove our competency to anyone. 3, we know good writing when we see it. We know what quality looks like. And 4, there are these unspoken pressures and rules around our teaching profession that no one ever wrote down, no one really ever says to us, but that we're still living under. And it's helpful to recognize that those are real and that they're there, and that if we can name them, maybe we can change them. Now, some observations I've noticed. My learners had a hard time editing or revising. 2, most of my learners didn't read my comments on their writing. They just looked at the grade. They would even, after they got the grade, walk out the door and then it would go in the trash. No? Just me? Right. 3, when I asked my learners to revise, they only made the changes I'd written down. So I'd do the work and then they take it home and type it in. That's not revising, but that's what I observed was happening. And 4, parents often cared more about the comments on the essays than the students did. 5, comments were, although I never would have said it this way, and no one said it to me, but they were my way of proving to the students and to the parents, and then maybe even the administration, that I knew how to grade writing. That I knew this is a B+ essay. So I had to write the comments to prove that I knew it was a B+ essay. And if I didn't write them, then somehow I wasn't an expert. So I had to it was like I was getting graded every time I graded an essay. And 6, I didn't get paid to work at home or after hours. So those are just my observations. Maybe you observe something different. But those facts and those observations, they led me to this point where I really had to ask this scary, powerful question, and it really changed everything. What if I decided to never take papers home again? Now, I was teaching middle schoolers, so you adjust this to your level, but I think it applies across the board. It did for my levels of students. So first, I had to start by proving my own competency to myself. Previously, I'd been using a grading rubric to prove their grade to them, and I wanted to flip this. So I had 6 classes of 40 students each, so that's 240 essays to grade every time I assigned writing. So this time I used my rubric to grade the first 40, and then I stapled that rubric to the back and I put all those on the bottom of the stack. I'd get to those at the end. And then I graded the next 200, giving myself only, get this, 30 seconds per essay to skim for the key features, get the gist of it, absorb the quality, and assign a grade. Yeah, I want you to spend 10 minutes on my essay. I worked really hard on that last night, If I spent 10 minutes on each essay, that'd be 2,400 minutes or 40 hours. That's a whole other work week, just grading. So then when I got to the last 40 that I'd already graded, I remember I put them at the bottom, I gave myself the same 30 seconds this time. So I put the letter grade at the top, and then now came the moment of truth. Will my 30-second grades match my rubric grades? Sure enough, they were almost all exactly the same. Just a few small tweakings of my rubric, and I was ready to go. So I waited a couple of weeks so they could forget what they wrote, and then I assigned their next essay. And the first thing we did to help them write their next essay was I taught them how to grade their last essay. So I handed back their essays with the single letter grade on the top, no comments, no markings, and I gave them each my rubric. Because remember, I already knew how to grade an essay. I already knew how to write the marks. I already knew how to write the suggestions. I knew where to write them. I needed them to know how, which meant I needed to learn to teach them how to grade their own essays. My job had flipped from telling them all the things to fix in their writing to teaching them to find all the things to fix in their writing. Flip. So I had to teach them how to see like me, and my rubric was the tool. So before handing them back their essays, I had combed through all of the excellent essays for examples of each of the different aspects of a quality essay. The hooks, the introduction, thesis, topic sentences, quotes, analysis, all the different things. Anything you want to show them where to find it, you scan those good examples from the essays. I wanted to show them what it looked like straight from their fellow learners. This is what it looks like, and here's where to find it. Now go find yours. So I had them with 4 different color highlighters. You can do whichever ones you want. And I had them highlight the different parts, different colors. And if it's not there, then they can't highlight it. It's brilliant because they're trying to find the thing to highlight. And if they can't highlight it, it's not there. And then they have to write that in the margin that it's missing. Onward with the students writing down everything that was in their writing with the highlighter and in the margins when it was missing. Hey, Mr. S, can you help me find my hook? Sure, Billy, I'll be right over there. And then I would go over to help him find it in his writing. Or I'd have a fellow learner help them find it. So they got a grade for grading their essay. So they had to do this right now because it's part of their grade. This is the assignment right now, is to learn how to assess an essay. I never thought about this before, but that needed to be an assignment. I got to teach them that. It's a skill. And then they got right to work on their next essay. Now, I loved doing it this way because they're taking their newly learned skills of assessing their own work and taking it directly into their next writing assignment to apply it. Because then writing becomes revising, becomes writing. Instead of doing it the other way, which was hand back the essay, they take it and then go revise it because I had already written the notes on it. And then it's weeks in between there, and then they're done, and we take a couple of weeks, and then we start the next essay. I love this because it puts the revising process of their previous work directly in front of their next work, and they take it right into that next section of writing. Okay. But when I'm grading essays, I have to mark everything. What you're saying sounds good, but I just can't help myself. I know it's hard, but if you must grade grammar in an essay, only grade the skill you've recently taught. That way they're applying the grammar in their writing instead of having to be general masters of every grammar rule that they've ever known and that they don't know, which is overwhelming for them and for you. I had to learn to keep my priorities simple and straight. My goal of writing was teaching them to write, not teaching them to grammar. It's a separate thing. And trust me, I love grammar and I think it's important. I had grammar shirts that I would wear when I was teaching grammar. But I also think it's very important for people to have ideas and to know how to express those ideas and to want to express their ideas. And focusing on grammar too early kills the want, because they want to communicate. So focusing more on their ideas and the creativity improves the whole environment. And it helps me get around to grammar toward the end. Ideas first, grammar later. So even after all of this and the success that I'd seen, I was feeling good about the process and seeing their improvement. The biggest feedback of my process came the next year when I ran into one of the local high school teachers. I think it was at a coffee shop. How were my 8th graders doing as freshmen now? This is the moment of truth. And it turned out about half of her class were my former learners. She asked me what I did because she was having a hard time figuring out what to do with my learners. Nervousness. It was like she had 2 classes, she said. One half who wrote like 9th graders and one half who wrote like freshmen in college. Whoops. But also yay, right? And it was a tough problem. I'm sorry I gave her that problem, but I'm also not sorry because this was an eye-opening validation of my process and what I'd instinctively felt. So I'd gone from 4 essays a year with 40 hours of at-home grading each time to 2 hours of grading and 88 essays a year. I'd found balance and I'd learned how to teach my learners how to see their writing so I didn't have to see it for them all the time. So after all of that, I was feeling good. And then I saw there was another rubric that I wanted to develop. So I developed this other tool that was going to help them revise and edit their essays before turning them in to me. Just like the other rubric, I walked them through the essays and taught them how to mark up their own writing. And remember, you can't turn in your final drafts until you've done this process first. You're going to attach this to your essay, okay? Speaking of final drafts, I stopped using that wording. It no longer worked for me. It didn't feel accurate. If I called it a rough draft, my learners felt licensed to turn in something rough. If I called it final, they felt like they were done. So I started calling them best drafts. On Friday, your best draft is due. Then we're going to do some revising, and then next Friday, your next best draft will be due. Best drafts were such a helpful concept and one of the best ideas that I ever came on. Hey, Mr. S. Yeah, hey, I finished grading my essay. You gave me a B-, I got a B+. We looked at it to see if they'd noticed all the parts, and sometimes I'd tell them, you're right. You saw something I didn't see. Let's raise that grade. Talk about an incentive to get good at grading your essay. And talk about teaching your learners to be able to trust what they have learned. Hey, thanks for meeting with me. I've had a great year, and I know Lorelai has too, but I'm just confused. Why aren't there any marks on Lorelai's paper? How's she supposed to get any better if you're not writing down the things that she's supposed to do to improve? Frankly, this has never happened to me because their child writes all kinds of marks on their own writing to learn why they earned their grade. If the parent asks me why I didn't write anything, I just show them the essay and tell them I already knew how to write the improvement notes on the writing, and I wanted to teach your learner how to do it, which they did. I've got this one learner who's just acing every essay, no matter what topic is. What do I do about her? I love this question, and I just tell them. Then I ask them if they want to stay at that level or get better. If they say they want to get better, then I tell them that in order to do that, I'd have to treat them differently and expect more of them. And is that what they want? And I'll tell you, I've only ever had one learner who didn't want that challenge, because these are the kids coming to me saying they're already acing it and they're bored with acing it. So these are the ones that I say, okay, all right. And I put a little mark by their name saying they get a harder grading process, and it works. Can I at least write an affirmation of what they're doing well? Yes, of course. You can honestly write as much as you want. It's all up to you. This conversation is about life balance, and I'd much rather write the praise and affirmation for them than write all the critiques on their essays that I want to teach them to write. So affirmations, yes. Just be aware of how much time you're spending on the essays. Yes, you're there for the kids, but balance. Okay, so how do you determine what letter grade to give the essay? You just read it? I read it. I soak in its overall quality level, and I go with my gut. Then, like I said, I double check my gut with my rubric. But I've learned that I can trust what I know is quality and what isn't. I know you said to ignore most of the grammar mistakes, but what if the writing is just plain unreadable because of all the errors? What do I do then? I'm going to suggest that it's much more readable than your first glance is giving it credit for. It takes a hot minute to learn to read past the errors and see the good, but after we do that, we start to see how their minds are communicating behind the grammar. I know the grammar's hard for us, but we've got to see how they are communicating, because that's the fun part for them. What if I'm seeing the same grammar errors, essay after essay? It's going to drive me crazy. This can be crazy at first, but when we see what it really is, it's a gold mine. Because it's great how their writing shows us the most fruitful areas for us to teach them. If you really want to write something, make a list over on the side of the different grammar errors that they're all making and add a tally each time. Then, when you go to teach grammar, start at the descending order from the skills they most need. And if you don't get to the ones that only one of them messed up, oh well, but you spent the time with the ones that 20 of them are having a hard time with. So start and just use it. It's a gold mine if you really want to keep track. Otherwise, just soak it in your brain. And when you get to those standards, no, my class really struggles with this. They don't struggle with this because it's all in the writing. Even more than the teaching of writing and all of this empowerment with the students, I love teaching literature. My expertise is in creating engaging novel studies that put the analysis back into their hands of my learners, just like I did with this writing process. So if that's how you work and that process feels good to you, in my shop at www.createdforlearning.com, I've got 37 novel studies in 3 different versions: traditional print, digital distance learning, and a combo that has both if you're in this hybrid learning environment going forward. And I'm working on developing another 20 novel studies to help engage your learners and save you time, because I know how precious time is. So I want to hear more of your writing questions. Send them over to me, email me, and we'll share ideas. I'll offer my insight back to you. And when you email me, I've got a free gift for you. It's a bundle of literature analysis resources that will work for any text that you use: short story, memoir, novel, any of that. So it's been such a pleasure sharing this with you. I hope that any of these parts have been helpful for where you're at in your writing journey and in your grading journey and in your time management journey. If you want more conversations, those are over in our YouTube channel as well. But I really today wanted to dive in and share this because I know how it changed my life. I'll just finish with one story. So when I was beginning teaching and I was feeling all of these pressures around papers, I had a 6-month-old daughter, and she was crawling around, and then she was learning to scoot along the table. And I'm sitting at home on my couch, and she's like scooting along the edge of the couch, wanting me to play with her. And I have a stack of essays on my lap, and I just looked and saw both of those, and I saw this little child is going to grow, and for the next 18 years am I going to be here on this couch while she wants to play with me, saying, "Sorry, daddy has to work." And it changed me, and I had to find a way. And I hope this way that I've shared today is a help for you. I'm open to more suggestions because I'm not a super expert, but I've been through this and I've seen what's on the other side. And I didn't take papers home for another 7 years. And I know you can too. And I really hope for that. And I hope to hear all the stories going forward. Please share them and keep being awesome.